Prince Charles has ruled out being a meddling monarch when he succeeds to the throne. In a major documentary to mark his 70th birthday next week, the heir to the throne tackles head-on the issue of his controversial lobbying. And he vows to stop campaigning on the environment, architecture and homeopathy as king, insisting, "I'm not that stupid." Speaking for the first, and, aides insist, last time on a subject that has dogged much of his time as Prince of Wales, he says, "I do realize it is a separate exercise being sovereign. So of course I understand entirely how that should operate. I've tried to make sure whatever I've done has been non-party political, but I think it's vital to remember there's only room for one sovereign at a time, not two. You can't be the same as the sovereign if you're the Prince of Wales or the heir. But the idea somehow that I'm going to go on exactly the same way, if I have to succeed, is complete nonsense because the two situations are completely different." However, the prince is unrepentant about his public campaigning over the past half-century. He says archly, "I always wonder what meddling is. I mean, I always thought it was motivating. But I've always been intrigued, if it's meddling to worry about the inner cities as I did 40 years ago and what was happening or not happening there, the conditions in which people were living. If that's meddling, I'm very proud of it." The documentary, Prince, Son and Heir, Charles at 70, which airs on BBC One at 9 p.m. tonight, is a fascinating portrait of the king-in-waiting, featuring candid contributions from family including his sons William and Harry and wife, the Duchess of Cornwall. It reveals that documentary maker John Bridget was given unrivaled access to Charles for a year, watching him at close quarters both at work and in private. And although a sensitive subject with the prince, the issue of his lifelong lobbying was difficult to ignore. Over the years, the prince has been accused of risking the monarch's constitutional impartiality by meddling in government policy. Tales of his so-called Black Spider memos, the regular missives written to ministers calling for action in his distinctive scrawled handwriting, have left many uneasy about his ability to be a neutral monarch. In the interview, the prince confronts the issue directly, pointing out that as the longest-serving heir to the throne in British history, he inherited the role at the age of just 4. It was his duty to find a way to live a productive public life. He compares his role to that of the 14th-century Black Prince, a predecessor as Prince of Wales and commander during the 100 Years' War. Charles says, "Each one of my predecessors had to find out how they would do it. A lot of them dropped dead or were killed before they got very far. I mean, the Black Prince was the first one and he rushed about doing all the complicated bits and fighting battles while his father sat somewhere else. So you know he was busy winning his spurs, and in a sense that's still what has to happen." Charles says as a young man he was encouraged to get involved by political leaders. "I remember Jim Callaghan, who was Prime Minister, and he invited me to come and spend the whole day at number 10, he recalled. "I sat in on all his meetings, and the cabinet meeting and his briefing before going to the House of Commons for question time, and then I was sent round all the different ministries to find out what went on. You have to make of it what you feel is right. There's nothing laid down. That's what makes it so interesting, challenging and of course complicated." When pushed by Mr. Bridget, who points out that people have openly expressed concern that he won't be able to resist getting involved, Charles explodes, "I'm not that stupid." He agrees that he could continue to use his convening power, the ability to bring disparate people and groups together, but only with the agreement of ministers. Charles rarely gives interviews of a personal nature. The last one was to presenter Jonathan Dimbleby in 1994 when he admitted adultery. And he has never confronted the issue of how he intends to conduct himself as monarch before, believing it unseemly to refer to anything that involves the death of his mother. But it is understood the prince believes now is the time to lay to rest the suggestion that he will be anything other than constitutionally neutral. Charles's mention of his work in the inner cities is a reference to the highly successful prince's trust for disadvantaged youngsters. He also describes himself as a risk-taker when it comes to some of his public work, like Dumfries House, the Scottish stately home that he controversially saved after taking out a £20 million loan and has since turned into a thriving charity hub. The prince says, "Having taken the risks, I believe in living dangerously. I'm so proud of how he stepped in to walk Meghan down the aisle," says Harry as he and William give candid interview about their relationship with their father. Prince Harry says his father did not hesitate to step in after the Duchess of Sussex's father pulled out of walking her down the aisle in May. When it became clear that Meghan wouldn't have her reclusive father to support her, Harry went to his. Speaking in a documentary to mark Charles' 70th birthday, Harry says, I asked him to, and I think he knew it was coming, and he immediately said yes, of course, I'll do whatever Meghan needs, and I'm here to support you. For him, that's a fantastic opportunity to step up and be that support, and you know he's our father, so of course he's going to be there for us. I was very grateful for him to be able to do that. Millions of viewers were left deeply moved as the prince turned to his father and said, "Thank you, Pa," as Charles completed the walk down St. George's Chapel at Windsor with Meghan on his arm. Charles's wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, says, "That was very touching. But afterwards, watching it on the television, I think it was a lovely gesture." Prince William insists he wants to take his own path in life. The second in line to the throne says, "There are so many things I admire about my father, his work ethic, his passions, but personally I want to be my own man and take my own style, my own passions and my own interests my way, and do things slightly differently. It's important that each generation does things a little bit differently.